Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Mask mandates are about to be phased out in Tasmania in a major development in our COVID response. Airports among the first to be impacted, with schools and childcare centres set to follow. Health officials have also determined they won't extend the public health emergency beyond June.
They've become the common accessory linked to 2 years of COVID uncertainty, but compulsory orders to mask up are on the way out.
From midnight Friday the 17th of June, there will no longer be a requirement to wear masks in Tasmanian airports.
Inside the aeroplane, the mandate will still be in place, but back on the ground, schools and childcare centres are preparing to remove face coverings from next Friday.
We feel that the measures that have been in place up until now that have achieved a high level of vaccination are such that we can ease back on public health mandates and use the resources that we have.
The step came as part of a big announcement by the Premier, which will also see public transport and Spirit of Tasmania ferries exempt, with the public health emergency to be scrapped on June 30.
Public health emergency will be over, the declaration will be over, but we are not treating things as if COVID is over. That's a very important thing to understand.
Leaving hospitals, aged care and correctional facilities to undergo their own risk assessments.
So we would anticipate that we will continue to have mask use in the majority of THS settings. Not all, but the majority, and that'll be ongoing at this stage.
All while travellers get the green light to cruise into the state's ports.
For the next cruise season in October this year, 2022. National protocols have been developed by public health authorities to support best practice by cruise operators.
In the midst of an influenza threat, a downward trend is being noticed in the latest COVID numbers. 628 new infections reported overnight. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanians are being assured there is no threat to local electricity supplies after the market operator cancelled a lack of reserve warning yesterday afternoon. The opposition, meanwhile, has put soaring bills on the agenda, introducing legislation which would cap power price rises.
Keeping the lights on in parts of Australia continues to be a challenge. As the East Coast faces blackouts, Tasmanians were today reassured they won't be left in the dark.
There have been no underlying supply issues evident in Tasmania, and there is more than sufficient generation in Tasmania.
In Tasmania, we've got a very well integrated system, multiple generators, and so the risk to our security supply is really minimal.
With bills, however, still expected to surge, Labor proposed an old idea to the current situation. It wants a price rise cap of 2.5% legislated, the figure a familiar one to the government.
This Tasmanian government believes that 2.5% is enough for public sector workers, and we don't want to see power prices go above and beyond the sort of wage increases that this government is proposing.
Look, it's very easy for oppositions to throw out a piece of paper and play the politics of the day.
Our proximity to the issue, however, was on show yesterday afternoon. Just before 2, the market operator issued a level 3 notice for Tasmania, forecasting a shortage in local power reserves. This was eventually cancelled just after 4:30 as conditions changed. The government tight-lipped on what sparked it.
I'm sure our Minister has been keeping in touch with respect to these matters, certainly haven't informed me.
The issue dominating question time as both sides sparred on the issue. Parliament also told Basslink has halted exports to the mainland.
Basslink have made a commercial decision not to export energy from Tasmania to Victoria whilst the administered price cap is in place in Victoria.
The opposition looking for answers.
When we've got AEMO issuing the notice that it did yesterday, warning of potential power shortages here in Tasmania, that is concerning. I'm not comfortable with the situation that Basslink is now in.
In the meantime, consumers are urged to make their concerns known.
We're certainly supportive of them flagging to government the impact that these higher prices are having on them.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Crews from interstate have arrived in Tasmania to bolster TasNetwork's power outage efforts. Around 1,800 customers entered their fourth day without power. That has now been reduced by 1,000. As we go to air, 34 known outages are still being addressed, mainly in the north and northwest. Liffey remains one of the most inaccessible areas, with fallen trees and blocked roads making it difficult for crews to restore power. A terrible year of carnage on our roads keeps getting worse, with another family torn apart. A 15-year-old boy and his 68-year-old grandmother killed when their car drove into the back of a flat tray in Latrobe last night.
At around 6:20, a small Hyundai hatchback ran straight into the back of the tray, splicing the windshield and instantly killing the 68-year-old woman and 15-year-old boy.
Look, this is a tragic set of circumstances.
The truck was in an 80 zone, turning into a helicopter base on the Bass Highway between Latrobe and Devonport. Two 14-year-old boys in the back of the hatchback survived. They were all members of the same family.
The passengers in the vehicle were taken to the Northwest Regional for checks, as was the driver of the truck, and they have no injuries.
Inattention and speed will form part of a wide-ranging investigation into how it happened. The road had been closed for 3 hours when the car was finally towed away. It's only mid-June, but this year's road toll has nearly eclipsed all of 2021. 35 people died on our roads last year. This year, we're already up to 30.
It has a huge impact on the family and friends of the people who have died, and it has a huge impact on the community as a whole.
Police are pleading for drivers to be careful, especially as dangerous winter conditions set in.
Tasmania Police really seeks the support of the community to influence driver behaviour.
A report will be prepared for the coroner. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Police are searching for an armed robber who held up a Kingston service station last night. Officers say the youth had a knife on him when he entered the Woolworths Caltex just after 6 o'clock. No one was physically hurt during the incident, but anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau has issued a safety advisory notice to operators of the UH-1H helicopter following a fatal crash at Labrina earlier this year. The Bureau recommends checking the helicopter's main drive shaft. A 41-year-old pilot conducting firebombing operations died in the crash on February 14. The investigation is ongoing. Tasmania's Nursing and Midwifery Federation is pleading with the Premier for a $3,000 winter surge payment. Comes after Victoria and New South Wales announced additional funds for its healthcare workers.
Other states and territories are obviously paying better wages and in some instances have better working conditions.
A meeting next week will see the government and the union discuss the payments as well as strategies to reduce workload, increase staff and improve patient experience. The Tasmanian Livestock Exchange is marking 2 years of operation at Parana in the state's north. After enduring a difficult time through COVID, the industry looks set to boom with the help of new digital infrastructure.
Beefing up safety and security, the Tasmanian Livestock Exchange is investing in its digital future.
Back in 2020, we introduced a new system called AgriNows, which was the first for Tasmania. It's a digital footprint of every movement of that animal while it's here.
By digitising our induction of livestock, it meant that we only have to enter the stock once. We weren't running around with bits of paper, and it allows us to have more a touchless operation.
This new digital technology is improving efficiency, bolstering animal welfare and improving traceability, benefiting growers and buyers.
And that's allowed us to be pretty advanced in our level of traceability, so our biosecurity is pretty accurate and it gives us the ability to be accountable for any problems.
With fears 2 major biosecurity threats, including lumpy skin disease, could wipe out livestock, it's a positive tool for the agricultural industry.
With a global pandemic thrown in, it actually fast-tracked some of that because there was a lot of buyers in particular that couldn't get to the yards, but also we had to operate on reduced capacity.
Driven heavily by the pandemic, the transition to digitisation has paid off. In March and April, 48% of the facility's cattle was purchased by mainland buyers.
Either participate face-to-face or they can participate online, or they can actually engage and say, look, can you source the stock for us?
Celebrating 2 years as TLX at Parana, the single selling centre encourages collaboration within the industry.
It's really acknowledging a facility in Tassie that is providing the best for our clients.
It comes as a cattle battle is brewing, with a monthly stall sale taking place tomorrow. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Humble, brilliant and the best they've ever seen. That's how former teammates are describing Tasmanian football icon Terry Cashion, who last night was inducted posthumously into the Australian Football Hall of Fame, an honour considered long overdue.
With a look of steely resolve, Terry Cashion had the ability to transform teams.
He was a brilliant footballer, probably one of the best, certainly the best footballer I ever played with.
As a boy, Sam Purdon remembers watching the champion Rover burst onto the scene for Newtown and Clarence. He finally played alongside his idol in 1952, when Sandy Bay poached Cashion and instantly rose from a wooden spoon to a premiership.
You've always heard the Bulldogs and the Leadhams and those sort of players, but occasionally you might have heard of Cashion, but he was every bit as good, if not better, than they were.
Now, at long last, he's being recognised as such.
Dad would just be so honoured.
After being inducted into the Australian Football Hall of Fame.
He was a gentleman, he was humble and a very kind, thoughtful person.
He's the best player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Cashion, even right till now, he's the great footballer I've ever seen.
Jack Barnes also played alongside Cashion, but for Longford. They're both in the club's team of the century and were lifelong friends. The Cashions even gave Jack and his wife their bedroom lamp for their wedding.
A great player, he was.
While Wes Stone grew up around the corner from Cashion in Longford, his talent captivated the town.
Cashion was always a player that drew people. He was always the sort of a bloke that would always go out of his way to talk to young ones.
An icon who made a name in Tasmania, which has only now gone national. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
As we go to air, thousands of foodies are making their way into the Princess Wharf shed with the candles lit for Dark Mofo's iconic winter feast. Our reporter Grace Evans is live at Hobart's waterfront. Grace, there's plenty in store for opening night.
Kim, it's one of the most popular events on the festival's calendar, and after 5 months of preparation, nearly 100 stallholders have turned out to showcase their finest offering. This year there are 25 first-comers serving up new dishes, but of course the old favourites are also making a return. Donuts, grilled meats and whiskey are all on the menu. The red crosses are shining bright with ancient Rome, the overarching theme of the night. Tickets are still available at the door, but that is subject to capacity. Organisers anticipate there could be up to 15,000 people coming through tonight. We spoke to some of them making their way through the gates a little earlier today.
Just excited to have a drink and hang out with friends, really. We've been here for the last week on holidays, but it's been good fun.
Looking to get a bit of the feast in on its first night, and we're pretty keen for it, to be honest.
Just having some time with the family. And what do you reckon, kids? Playing tag in the winter feast? Yeah. What do you think?
All the action runs through to Sunday night, kicking off at 4 o'clock each afternoon. And Kim, I am being assured there's something to satisfy everyone's taste buds, so I'm off to test that theory.
You go and enjoy. It looks fabulous behind you. Thanks very much, Grace. Grace here from the waterfront. Well, Tasmanians are being asked to divulge their fears once again for an iconic Dark Mofo exhibition coined Ogga Ogga. A giant masked owl installed on Parliament lawns is a key part of the display. 4 weeks of work has gone into creating the realistic animal, which arrived only last week, just in time to collect the worries of the community.
We put them inside Olivia, her name is, the owl, and later she is processed from here up to the cenotaph, where she's burnt spectacularly.
The next 4 days will be spent gathering public opinions before culminating in the Balinese burning ritual on Sunday evening. Marches have been held across the state on World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in an attempt to support the 15% of elder Australians falling victim to some form of abuse.
As their age hits an incline, the respect some Tasmanians hold for the elderly population takes a sudden downward spiral.
Nearly 1 in 6 Australians over the age of 65
have some element of abuse associated with their lives.
People in Hobart, Launceston and Burnie coming out in droves to raise awareness of the issue. Australia's first elder abuse study revealed more than 15% of senior citizens are susceptible to maltreatment, often hidden and often at the hands of those within their inner circle.
It's often by family members, so there's issues of shame, of regret, confusion about why that is happening to them.
The main perpetrators are children of the elderly when it comes to psychological, financial and negligent abuse, with sexual and physical assault falling lower in the charts.
It can be financial abuse, a lot of people withholding funds from people. It can be making people not have enough food to eat.
Yet, only 1/3 of victims have found their voice to report such incidents. And though there are positive ageing and inclusion commitments in place,
we also have more and more involvement at the state, federal and of course council level so that we can have better reporting mechanisms that are appropriate to our senior members.
some officials say more needs to be done. The government's national plan to end elder abuse is set to conclude next year, leading older generations concerned about their future. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian Kai Savage is showing no mercy at the Under-16 Asian Championships. He scored 16 points while Jacob Furphy had 9 in the Aussie Crocs 88-41 win over Bahrain. They now head to the semi-finals where they'll play Kazakhstan or the Philippines.
Hello again. It felt like a real typical winter's day today. Hobart a high of 9, Launceston 11, Burnie 12, a few sweeping showers through the state, misty rain. Cressy the coolest overnight with -2, while Strawn and Flinders Island registered our high of 14. Low Head and Friendly Beaches 13 today, King Island, Wynyard and St Helens 12, 8 for Roos and 9 in Grove, while Lyowini reached 6. A widespread cloud band over and surrounding the state today, swirling around a low west of King Island. More of that same cloud moved over the southeastern states. High cloud is streaming over WA with a frontal band to the south. Tomorrow a high over South Australia is the dominant feature, with weak troughs near the coasts, decaying low and front over our region. Early, the winds will be up to 10 to 20 knots over Bass Strait and the northwest, but becoming more variable at 5 to 15 knots ahead of a southwesterly change at similar speeds later in the day. Strong wind warning early. That's from Sandy Cape to Stanley for those northwesterlies. Hobart partly cloudy tomorrow, 14 the top, 13 for Cygnet, bit of cloud over New Norfolk, 5 overnight. 15 the top for Launceston with showers clearing, Devonport the same, 13 the high for Campbelltown. Burnie expecting 15 degrees with showers clearing. Late showers though for Strawn, 14 the top and 16 the high for Smithton. And there's St Helens, a shower or 2 and 14, 14 for Swansea, shower for Fingal and 13 the maximum. On Friday, showers over the west and far south with just a spattering over the remainder of the state. Fine and partly cloudy on Saturday as showers ease from the northeast, and on Sunday a shower again over the northeast and possibly the northwest, morning fog and frosts inland. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, cool and showery for Adelaide and Melbourne, just 12 degrees in Canberra tomorrow, sunny in Sydney and Brisbane with temperatures in the 20s. Cloudy in Hobart, it's 9 degrees, 9 in Launceston and showery, 11 degrees right now in Devonport. Kim, I see you've been smiling all day about that national wage increase. It's the minimum wage increasing, doesn't apply to you.
Nor used. That's all we have time for this evening. Thanks for your company. Good night.